Patricia was driving home from work late at night. She was tired and just wanted to get home and go to bed. She was driving on a dark road with no other cars in sight. Suddenly, she saw a man standing in the middle of the road. She slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. She hit the man and the car came to a stop. The woman got out of the car and ran towards him. He was lying on the ground unconscious and bleeding from the head. Patricia called 911 and then started to give the man CPR. She knew that if she didn't do something, he would die. The ambulance arrived and took the man to the hospital. She gave the police her statement and then went home. She couldn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about the man and wondering if he was going to be okay. She also kept thinking about the fact that she had hit him with her car. She felt guilty and responsible for what had happened. The next day, she called the hospital to check on him. She was shocked to know that the man went missing from the hospital. The police investigated the matter, but they were never able to figure out what had happened. They couldn't find any witnesses and there was no evidence of foul play. She was left to wonder what had happened to him. She didn't know if he had just wandered off from the hospital or if something more sinister had happened. She would never know for sure. The guilt and grief eventually began to subside, but she never forgot the man she had hit with her car. One day, Patricia was driving home from work when she saw a sign for a support group for people who had been involved in fatal accidents. She decided to go to the meeting, hoping that it would help her to deal with her guilt. Whilst at a support group meeting, a woman named Tanya started narrating her ordeal about being in an accident. Suddenly, shivers went down Patricia's spine. Patricia realized that Tanya is narrating the exact same chain of events that had happened to her. It felt like a déjà vu and Patricia froze with fear and confusion. After a few minutes, when Tanya had finished describing her story, Patricia gathered her composure and approached Tanya, all the while trying to understand what had happened to her. Patricia shared her story with Tanya and both women decided to investigate the matter further. They went to the hospital for some answers, but all they could get was the man's name, John Korinsky. The duo spent restless days and nights trying to find him, but to their dismay, no man with that name fit the description of their mysterious victim. Slowly days became months and they could not find any information on him. One day, on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, Patricia and Tanya decided to meet up for lunch. Tanya was an avid reader and wanted to go to the city library to return some books. Patricia accompanied her. Out of sheer curiosity, Patricia started going through newspaper articles from the 20th century. Suddenly, she came across something that would forever change her life. She screamed in fear when she saw an article about a man named John Korinsky whose picture looked eerily similar to the man she hit with her car. He went missing on February 12, 1938. He was never found and his disappearance was declared a cold case and closed after 5 years of investigation. Tanya shared a similar reaction when she read the article. Both women were now forced to believe the unthinkable. There were otherworldly forces trying to tell them something. To their horror, both women met their respective accidents on the same day, February 12, in different years. The women contacted the police and shared all their findings, but as expected, nobody believed them and police thought they were looking for their 10 minutes of fame. But these women were not ready to just give up, as they knew what happened to them was real and had a deeper connection to the 1938 missing persons case. They gathered a team of volunteers from their support group and started searching the area in the hope of finding something that would help them get a closure. After spending hours digging in scorching heat, some members stumbled upon the remains of a human being buried in a shallow grave. Only a few bones remained of a person who once lived and walked the earth. The police were able to locate the descendants of John Kerensky, and after some DNA testing, it was found that the remains did belong to the same John Kerensky who was murdered decades ago. These findings were bittersweet for Patricia and Tanya, but gave them some closure while forever changing their perception towards life and afterlife.